Hi, I'm Dorothy Vieira Hubbard. I was born in Fairhaven, Massachusetts, May 16th, 1927. My mother and dad was Phoebe and Joseph Vieira. Um, Dad and Mom came down to Florida in January of '43 just for a vacation. My dad was a barber and he had started suffering from arthritis, occupational arthritis, and felt he needed a rest if he was ever to continue with his barbering. So they came down for 2 weeks. Mother's aunt, who we children always knew as grandmother, had a home in Lake Helen, and they visited her daughter and son-in-law, and lived in DeLand, Mr. and Mrs. Ed Valley. So we did have relatives. After the 2 weeks, they returned home. Weather was terrible with blizzards and snow, and it made up my dad's mind overnight that he wanted to move to Florida. I had one sister that had curvature of the spine, and she was not well, and Daddy felt like the warm climate would be better for her. So we moved to Florida. Two of us, Edith and I, had to come a month before school started because I finished my last year of high school in DeLand. I graduated from DeLand in 1944.
Okay.
And this great aunt of mine that lived in Lake Helen, they moved to Florida from New Bedford in 1924. There again for the health of my great uncle. He had asthma, and doctors told him that a southern climate would be better for him, so that's why they moved down.
Now, what were their names?
Their name was Lewis. Mary and John Lewis, I believe it was. And so they lived in Lake Helen all those years. After we moved down, I'm going to call her Grandma Lewis because that's what I'm familiar with. She moved into DeLand with her daughter, Mary Valley. Lake Helen was a nice small town, which we liked. I had to ride the school bus to DeLand to the high school. Solon Chalker was the driver. He was also the barber in Lake Helen. And so my sister Edie and I rode the school bus to DeLand.
Did your father continue to barber, or did he retire?
Yes, he did. No, he continued to barber after we moved to Florida. He went to work for Murray Hall, had his barber shop on the boulevard next to Touchland's drugstore at that time, which was on the corner. And as a matter of fact, even though he had been a barber for many years, he had to go to a barber school in Jacksonville in order to get his license, because the state of Florida did not recognize barbers, even if they had been a barber for 40 years.
Yeah.
They had to go and get certified, and so he went up to Jacksonville. I think he had to be there like 6 weeks, and he'd come home on weekends and then go back. After I graduated from high school, during high school, I worked at the McQuarrie's dime store after school. And then I graduated from high school, and I went to work for Goodwin M. Nielsen, Buck Nielsen.
Nielsen. Let me back you up just a little bit. You were 16 when you came down from Mass. Was there any reluctance on your part as a teenager? Sometimes they don't like to move.
You know, it didn't seem to bother me.
It didn't? Okay.
No. Now, there were 6 of us girls, and Mother and Dad, and we all moved down. They ranged in age from 14 to 28, because even my older sister, at that time she was 24, because she's 10 years older than my youngest sister. And out of the 6, I think there was one that was a little reluctant to leave, but came along with the family, because that's what you did back then.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any problems through the high school.
Okay.
Seemed to blend in okay. I enjoyed meeting the southern people. They were, a little different than...
A little bit of culture shock?
Yeah, a little bit, but not much.
What were your sisters' names?
Okay, the oldest one was Elsie, and then Irene, Clara, Hazel, and Edith.
Okay.
So I was next to the baby.
Okay. Where did you live in Lake Helen?
We lived on the corner of Water and Lakeview Avenue,
Okay.
in a big two-story house that had been Grandma's, and let's see, it was mostly houses around there. The water plant and the electric plant was across the street from our house,
Okay.
and it was still working. I don't know when it was torn down, because after I think it was still there when I got married in 47. So we used to go to the ice plant and get a block of ice, and if you wanted more ice in the summertime. So it was still working there. Our post office at that time was on the corner of Garden and Lakeview Avenue, in a building that part of it was the post office and part was a grocery store. And since then, that building has been torn down many years ago.
Were there some other businesses around that you can remember?
Yes, there was. The city garage was across the street from, I'm almost sure, from that building that was the post office and grocery. The city office was in that building, and I guess if they had city trucks, it was housed in that. It was called the city garage.
Yeah.
And of course, since then, it's been torn down. There was another garage, Warrensford's garage on Lakeview Avenue, just another block up from those other buildings. There was a W.E. Hyde, Hyde, had a grocery store on the corner of Pennsylvania and Lakeview Avenue. That was across the street from the school. It is still there, only it's like a hardware store type. Circle S is the name of it. And then there was another store. Let me see. No, I guess Tom English's store wasn't there at that time. He still lived there. Mr. Chalker had his little barber shop there on Lakeview Avenue, just up from Water Street where we live.
Okay. You had a house full of young ladies. How did you split up the chores? What did each...
We all pitched in. We always did, ever since we were little.
Did you have specific responsibilities yourself, do you recall?
Well, we each kept our own room up and helped Mother downstairs with the cleaning. The older girls did most of the cooking with Mother. Of course, at that time, most of the girls were working in DeLand, so they really didn't do much of the cooking. Mother did most of it.
Okay.
But it was just helping Mother maintain the house.
Okay.
And
what did y'all do for entertainment? I guess the older girls, especially, were they dating? Were they going to? Was there dances to go to? What was available?
My parents were sort of close. Everything we did was within the family.
Okay. Yeah.
We'd go to movies. That was about it. Hazel and Clara, they went to the dances that were held in DeLand. I believe it is where the Post 6 is located now. In that building, they had like youth dances, high school dances, and they did go there because they were already in their early 20s. And I didn't go out much.
What did
not until...
What if you weren't doing chores at home as a younger child? What did you do? How did you pass the time?
I read a lot, and I will say they did have in the Lake Helen Lake Park across from our house, they had a tennis court. It wasn't really kept up, but there was a net across there, so us, Edie and I and a couple fellas from the neighborhood, we'd go over there and play tennis.
Okay.
And or try at it. We never did get that good at tennis, but it was batting the ball around.
Okay.
I really can't think of other than reading a lot and like on Sunday we'd get out in the lawn and play croquet.
Yeah.
We had a croquet set. And but like I say, we were a very close-knit family. My mother and dad were of Portuguese descent, and Daddy was very protective of the family. And even my older sister, she didn't get married till she was about 28.
Okay.
And she worked at the McCrory store. She was a bookkeeper up in the office, and she worked there until she met a man that worked he was like a carpenter. He worked for different McCrories. He worked for the McCrory Company out of New York, and he would go to different stores to do rebuilding and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The second daughter, Irene, she never married. And she worked in DeLand in the city hall for 19 years.
Oh.
She was city clerk.
Oh, okay.
And this goes back to the 50s and 60s.
Okay.
And then she passed away in 74.
Okay.
She had already quit working because physically she was not able
Yeah.
to continue. The third daughter, she had married a boy from Massachusetts. He had been in the Army, and she married in 45, I believe it was. So she wasn't in Lake Helen too long, but there again, she worked in DeLand. She worked in the water department in City Hall.
Mm.
Hazel, she worked for McDonald's Abstract Corporation for several years. And then, of course, I worked for Buck Nielsen. He was representative to state legislature in Tallahassee.
Oh, okay.
But that was aside from his insurance office.
All right.
And I worked with Erskine Royal, who worked with Buck for a number of years. And, of course, Erskine was mayor of Lake Helen for a number of years.
That's right. Was he mayor while you worked for him?
No. He didn't become mayor, I believe, until the 60s.
Okay.
So I had already left.
Okay.
After I got married, of course, I went to Paris Island with my husband.
Yeah.
And in 49, he was sent over to Guam. I crossed country with him. I worked for an aunt and uncle there, then came back to Lake Helen.
Okay, let me back you up again now. Eventually,
I'm getting
I wanna
away from it, I know.
No,
but-
that's okay. I want to get back to the high school, and let's talk about high school for a little bit.
Okay.
You came down when you were 16, so you went into what grade was that?
Senior.
You were a senior, so you said
uh-huh.
1 year.
Right.
Okay. What was it like at the school? You said you fit in well, had friends, and
Right. I liked the teachers. I liked the students. I felt like we had a good school.
Yeah.
And
Do you remember some of the teachers?
Oh yes.
Who were some of your favorites?
Okay, Mrs. Robinson, I believe, was my English teacher. Mrs. Kendall was history teacher. Mrs. Horn, Catherine Horn, she was my typing teacher or shorthand. There was another teacher that, what was her name? I'm missing. Because I had one teacher for typing and one for bookkeeping. Can't remember her name.
Hmm.
But I went to some of the football games.
Would you go with classmates or family or what?
My younger sister mostly, and I think Hazel would go too. The three of us would go.
Do you remember some of your classmates, some of your friends? Or can you tell me their names? And
Oh, sure. Ruth Wilson. Of course, Bill Dreggers.
oh,
Graduated. Oh, yeah, we
Oh, okay.
graduated together.
yeah,
Tom Evans. Um, Robert Unkerford. Went to the Key Club banquet with him, so I can't forget him. I tell you, there are so many.
Yeah.
We just had a homecoming reunion, and so there was a lot of people that came back. Not so much for this one as it was for our 50th, but...
Can you remember any stories, anything in particular about any of your friends? Their personalities, anything like that?
No, not really.
No.
Because being more or less a stranger, I didn't have that many close friends, but I felt like I was friendly with everybody.
Yeah.
And Annie Laurie Wilkins from Lake Helen, Virginia Throckel from Lake Helen.
Mm-hmm.
They were my classmates, and
who were the ones getting in trouble all the time is what I want to know.
oh, don't ask me that. No.
No troublemakers in the class?
Oh, we had some cut-ups. I hate to say it, but Bunky Blunt was one of them. Really.
What do you recall about Bunky Blunt? Was he called Bunky then?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Through high school, he was called Bunky. Throwing spitballs, throwing erasers, things like that. You know, little stuff, but
Yeah.
still.
Yeah.
He had a lot of fun. And there were some of the boys that went along with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
He was kind of a ringleader, was he?
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
And but like I say, it was a lot of fun. I know he wasn't malicious about it. It was just having fun. So.
Now you graduated, and then how long after graduation did you meet your husband?
Well, actually, I met him while I was going to school before he got into the Marine Corps.
Oh, okay.
And he was working up in Brunswick at some plant up there. And when he'd come home, he'd ride on the school bus just to visit with kids that he'd gone to school with. Because LJ did not finish high school.
Mm-hmm.
So I really knew him then. And then when he got in the Marine Corps and left, I wrote to him the 3 years he was gone.
Mm.
And then when he came home, we started dating. And that was in February of 47.
Okay.
And we got engaged that Easter, then got married in December.
Okay.
So
Now he was still in the service at the time, so you went with him?
he was in the service when we married, yeah. I went to Paris Island with him.
Okay.
We were there a year when he got orders to Guam. And he was buck sergeant at the time, so I could not go with him as his wife. But I had hope that they could change things around. I drove across country with him, and like I say, we stopped at my aunt and uncle's, and I stayed there while he was stationed on Guam, supposedly for 2 years, but
Now where were your aunt and uncle?
in Los Angeles, California.
Okay.
And he was supposed to be over there 2 years, but they had a bad typhoon over there, and it really devastated the Marine camp, so a detachment was brought back to Pendleton. And that was in February of 1950. And so he was only over there, say, a year, 13 months.
Mm-hmm.
When he came back to the States, because it was a whole detachment, everybody couldn't get leave, so he was stationed at Pendleton, and I flew out to be with him. And we were there about 5 months, well, till September, when he left to go to Korea and made the Incheon landing. So I was left in California, and I didn't want to stay out there.
Yeah.
So I sent for his brother, Harry Hubbard, to pay for his flight out so he could drive me and my puppy dog home. So I came home, and I went back to work at Nielsen's they took me back, and I worked there until Jay came back from Korea, and he was gone another 13 months, and he came back in July of '52. Let me see. I'm getting myself all mixed up.
Well, let's go to Nielsen's for a second. Now, what kind of work did you do at Nielsen's?
Office work, because it was an insurance agency.
And where was that located?
It was first located in the Barnett Bank building on the corner of New York and the Boulevard. We were on the 3rd floor, I believe it was. And then he moved down, after a couple of years, he moved down to the building directly behind, excuse me, behind the bank building, which prior had been Allen Summerhill Funeral Home. Then Buck went in partnership with Mr. Maxwell. Can't think of his first name. But they went in partnership for real estate and insurance. So Buck had the insurance and also did real estate with Mr. Maxwell.
Okay.
And that was in that building. Now that was when I came back, when he was still on Guam. When I came back to Florida, when he went to Korea,
That was about 52.
in 1950, I worked for Powell Hooper Ford that was on the Boulevard. That was in the building prior to Diane Sun News moving into it. So I worked for Mr. Powell until LJ came back from Korea. And from Korea, we went back to Paris Island. And he worked in motor transport. We were there maybe about 5 months. No, we were there longer than that, because I got pregnant. And had my first child there at Beaufort.
Oh, okay.
And then she was about 5 months old when we got transferred to Camp Lejeune.
And what was her name?
Her name was Carolyn,
Carolyn, okay.
our first child. So we went to Camp Lejeune, and our second child was born there. Lawrence John III, but we call him Larry.
Okay.
It's been Larry ever since. And we were at Camp Lejeune for about 5 years. And our third child was born, Mary Lynn. And then Jay got orders to Japan. So I came back to Florida with my children.
Oh, you didn't go to Japan, though?
No. He was with Fleet Marine Force, and they did not allow dependents with Fleet Marine Force because they were on immediate, anything happened, they had to leave right then.
Oh,
So the
kind of
government
alert,
couldn't worry with dependents when the Marines were
Now,
at different places.
you had been coming and going from Lake Callan to Land area for a number of years. How was the area changing? Did you would have noticed the...
Well, there in Lake Helen, like I say, the electric plant was gone. The city, I don't want to say barn, I said another word before. The city maintenance building was gone. The building that had the post office originally and the grocery store, it was gone.
Wow.
And new places were built. The second post office, it was built on the corner of Lakeview Avenue and Garden Street. And nothing ever built in where the other city building was.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing built in, where the ice plant was, now it's a 7-Eleven store. And there was another store that was built. And there on Ohio and Lakeview was the building that, what was his name? Some fella built it's where Pyromax studio is now. I know his name, but I can't think of it.
Okay.
So Lake Helen hasn't changed that much. And of course, out on Main Street is some businesses there, quality products. That was first Budweiser plant. It's there, and there's another building back there. I can't remember what work it does, but there's a pretty good sized building there. And of course, on Main Street, our new bank. And I think the biggest change too was when I-4 went through and it put Lake Helen on the map,
Yeah.
more or less.
Do you recall the interstate being built there?
No, because I was out. You have to.
That was one of those periods when you were gone.
Right. From about. Well, he came back from Japan in '68. From '68. No, it was before that, because we went to Hawaii in '61. He came back from Korea in '52. It was in '56 when he went to Japan. So it was '58 that we went back up to Lejeune. And we were there until '61 when we went to Hawaii for 3 years. We came back from Hawaii and went to Atlanta. He was with a reserve unit there at Georgia Tech campus. And we were there 3 years when he went to Vietnam.
Now, what did you do when he was stationed at these places? How did you pass the time? Were you housewifing or were
I
you
was
working?
just a housewife and mother.
Housewife. Okay.
Especially since the children, I
Yeah.
always stayed home and took care of the kids.
Okay. And he went to Vietnam what year?
He went in 67.
About 67.
Yeah, and he came home in 68.
Well, 67, things were really heating up over there. What was, and did you come back to Lake
back
Helen?
to Lake Helen. I always felt that if I couldn't be with him, I would be with our parents. And it's one of those things that I've always felt that there was a reason for. When he went to Japan and I brought the 3 children home, we had a mobile home and we set it up at Mom and Dad Hubbard's. And my folks still lived in the house that we moved into when we moved to Florida. And so the children got to know both sets of grandparents. I'd go up to my folks, even though I lived close to the Hubbards in their property. I was going back and forth, so the children got to know both grandparents. He came back from Japan in July, and the following March I lost my daddy. And I thought, well, God was working in mysterious ways.
Mm-hmm.
And if it meant him going overseas and being away from us, we were with the folks. Then when he went to Vietnam, I moved to Lake Helen, and of course the kids were older, and he was gone a little over a year.
Was that a more difficult time for you than other times because of the war?
Well, yes, naturally. The kids were worried about their daddy, and I was worried about him.
Mm-hmm.
We got a tape recorder, and he got one over there, so that we got the same size tapes, and we would send tapes over to him. He would send tapes to us. So it sort of made us feel closer to him, and him feel closer to us.
Yeah.
The children talked on the tapes. We heard the shelling over there. We heard the Puff the Magic Dragon go over. It came on the recordings, and he'd say, "There's Puff the Magic Dragon up there."
The helicopter.
The helicopter that was firing on different places or around them. He was first sergeant of the 7th Communications Battalion. And So it was interesting in that respect. It was hard on the kids.
Yeah.
Especially, seemed like the younger girl, and she was about 12, 13 at that time. She would get quite upset. Why did my daddy have to be over there? And I'd try to talk to her and say, well, that's his work. That's what he's done all his life, you might say. He was 17 when he got in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And it was a little hard, but I didn't have any trouble with the kids. The older girl was 16, the boy was 14 and a half, the other girl was 12, and the youngest was about 4 or 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
They were good kids. I had no problems with them.
Did he share what was going on over there with you in terms of his feelings? And,
As much as he could, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very
What do you
much so.
recall? What do you call how he coped over there?
Well, he was a man 40 years old, he had been through combat more than once, and, well, that was his third time, really. And he knew what his job was, and he knew the men below him. He knew he was more or less in charge of them, and I know it was hard on him. It was hard being away from the children and me. It just was one of those situations that we had to cope with.
I know from talking to him that it was difficult in Vietnam.
Very.
The violence and being responsible for so many people. Did he share any of that with you? Did he?
Well, in our letters, and we wrote every day.
Yeah.
And he would naturally tell me how he was feeling, and I could feel how he was feeling.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, he saw a film on TV. It ran all day Sunday about Vietnam. And this one section was about the Marines. And after seeing it for, I think it was 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, because he was watching upstairs and I was downstairs, we have 2 TVs. And when he came down, he was shook. I could, his face. He says, I was over there and all that happened. And there was still a lot that he didn't know. Other parts of it, He recognized several of the fellows that he had done duty with that had been wounded or killed, and it brought it all back.
Yeah.
And he's never, thank God, he's never had flashbacks like some fellows I'm sure have done when they came back from Vietnam. But that one shook him.
Yeah. Do you remember what that was he was
back.
watching?
It was called Vietnam, the Soldier, or something like that.
Maybe a historic channel
And
thing or something.
yeah, it was more like documentary rather than a movie.
Yeah.
And that's why it brought it all back real close.
Okay. He returned from Vietnam then what year?
He returned in 68 because we went up to Camp Lejeune. Again, that's been our second home, you might say. We were only there about 5 months when he got orders to Tallahassee for the reserve unit. And that was good because I moved back to Lake Helen in the house that we had lived while he was in Vietnam. And I was able to help his mother and dad. Dad was not well at all. And the children went to schools locally, of course. He would come home on weekends and be with us and then leave early Monday morning to go back to Tallahassee. And he was there until he retired in May of '69.
He could have re-enlisted again.
Yes, he could.
And he chose not to.
Right. Because a letter had come out to say that all first sergeants and sergeant majors who had been to Vietnam and were back in the States 1 year would take another tour. I had never said anything to him about getting out of the Marine Corps. I enjoyed it. Military life was great, even though there were times we had our separations. But I felt like he was very, very lucky, and God was with him, that he came home without being hurt.
Yeah.
And I was afraid that if he went back over, he'd be pushing his luck. He'd had 25 years in the Marine Corps.
Now, did you share those feelings with him?
Oh, yeah.
Were you a part of that decision not to re-enlist?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I told him, I said, honey, I'd rather you not stay in the Marine Corps. I said, put your letter in to get out. And he went right along with me because he felt the same way.
Yeah.
So he put in his letter to get out. And he retired. And he had 25 years in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like he'd owed them anymore.
So then you were back in Lake Helen for good.
For good.
And
And there was never any doubt of us retiring to Lake Helen.
Yeah.
Lake Helen was home. His mother and dad were as much my mother and dad as they were his. Called him mother and dad from the day we married. And of course, when he was in Vietnam, I always took mother shopping, and dad, he played shuffleboard, but then he got too sick too. But I'd take him down to the shuffleboard court so he could be with his cronies and enjoy talking with them, and getting back to losing a parent when he was back from Vietnam. And of course he retired in '69. In 1970 he lost his dad. So I always felt that our place was to be with family if we couldn't be with him.
Yeah. Now, did you all actually retire when he got out of the service, or did you? Did he go looking for work? Did you continue to work?
Well, I had never worked while he was gone. I'd always be home with the kids.
With the kids.
Because then, too, I would be able to help Mom and Dad Hubbard.
Right.
Dad was, like I said, very sick. He had congestive heart failure. And lots of times Mother would call me, whether at 2 o'clock in the morning, that Dad was having a spell. I'd go down. Because we only lived, well, we lived on the corner, and then there was another house, and then their house. So within walking distance, we were very close. Once he retired, and right away he looked for work. He worked, I think, 6 months over at GE as a security guard. Then he got on with the State Road Department in DeLand, and he worked there 1 or 2 years. But our daughter Carolyn graduated from high school in 1970, and then she went to DBCC. Well, she needed transportation. She could drive, but we went to Powell Hooper. At that time, Powell Hooper Ford was out on 92 and 17, the corner, where Kmart is now. Yeah. And so we went there looking for a car for her. We got her a little Pinto. And Mr. Powell asked if I wanted to go to work. And I said, well, I got to pay for that car. Yeah, so I went to work for Mr. Powell. And I worked there about 3 years. In the meantime, Jay changed jobs, and he went to work for Briley Wild Consulting Engineers over in Almond Beach. And I decided, well, I don't need to work. So I quit, and I just stayed home. Took care of Mom. So it's been a full life.
What do you do now for your entertainment, your pastime? What kind of things are you interested in now?
I say I have 2 vices: bowling and bingo. I bowl twice a week, and when there are any tournaments outside of town, I like to go to them.
You must be a good bowler.
Not really. I average a 140 average.
That is good.
Which it has been higher and it's been lower. But I bowl with a nice group of ladies, and I like to go. Yeah. And Jay is very good about letting me go. I think that means a lot.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
You gotta have your space.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, he's always had his hunting and fishing, and I let him go. So
Yeah.
we each have our thing to do.
Yeah.
Bingo, I go twice a week, sometime. I generally go to the Orange City Lions Club. And he never minds my going there. He says, go ahead. He says, you never, and this is his words, you never did anything while the kids were growing up. You stayed home and took care of them.
Well, that was plenty, wasn't it?
So now I get to do a little outside stuff.
Some of the things you'd like to do.
Yeah.
Well, how profitable is bingo?
I'm in a very bad slump right now. June and July was pretty good, but boy, something's got to break.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much for coming over today.
I've enjoyed it.
Appreciate it.
When it comes to talking, like I say, I can talk more about military life than I can being in Lake Helen, but I always came home.
Yeah.
It's always been home.
Okay.
And when, after his mother died and we decided to buy the old homestead, because we're living in the house that his dad built in 1911. And of course he was working out of town with Barley Wild, and I was alone in the house that we had built down near the lake. And I told him, I says, I'd like to get in the old home. I don't think he was as hep about it as I was, but I'd go up there and I painted all the rooms myself, and I got it all ready where we could move into it.
Yeah.
Because his sister and brother and he were left the house. Well, we got an appraisal on the house to see what it would cost, and we went ahead and refinanced our other house so we could buy the home place, and we bought his sister and brother out, so it was ours.
Yeah.
And it's a good old house.
You said it's down by the lake?
No, the one we had built when he retired was down at the lake.
Oh, okay.
But this one here is 2 blocks up from the lake.
And which lake is that?
Lake Helen Lake.
Lake Helen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's on Pleasant Street, and we just love it there.
What happened to the house that your parents moved into when they came down from
Okay,
Massachusetts?
it was after Daddy died. It was too big for Mother and my sister Irene. At that time, she was working in the city hall. It was too big for them to take care of because it was a big 2-story house. So they sold it and moved to a little house on High Street in Lake Helen off New York Avenue. And Mother and Irene lived there until Mother died. Irene continued to live there until she died.
Mm-hmm.
And then we sold it. We girls, since it was left of the 5 of us, we sold it. And the money was divided between 5 of us.
Okay. Now, what about your other sisters? Did you have other sisters surviving?
Yes. Edith, the youngest one, she and her husband, she married the land boy, James Edward Johnson, and we always called him Ed. They live out in Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
And also they have a place up in Michigan, like a summer place. And they also have a place in New Smyrna.
Oh, okay.
Ed worked for oil companies practically all their married life. And he retired from Texaco about 2 years ago. Then he did consulting work, so he's been a busy man. Then Hazel, she lived in Lake Helen until her husband died. He was Elwood Leslie, and he worked for the county in mosquito control, I believe. After he died, she moved to Orange City, and she's there now. Clara, she was the 4th daughter. She also had married she divorced her first husband and then married a Marine, and then they divorced, and she went to live with one of her daughters who was in the Army at the time. And after her daughter and her husband, who were both sergeant majors in the Army, they retired and moved to California, and she, being Kathy's dependent, she went with them. From California, they moved to Las Vegas, Nevada. And a year ago, well, this past January, she passed away. So now it's 4 of us girls left. And the oldest one, she lives up in Michigan. And she had lost her husband back in '80. They had one child, a daughter, Madeline, and she is a nurse, and she and her family live up in Wisconsin. So once a year, I try to go up to Michigan for a week or two vacation and be with the sisters up there.
Yeah.
Get to see nieces and nephews and such.
What part of Wisconsin?
Oshkosh.
Okay.
And Madge's husband works for Speed Queen. He had worked for Whirlpool when they were in Michigan, and then he transferred to Speed Queen.
Okay.
He's a PhD or something.
Okay.
So that, more or less. Now we have the 4 children, and Carolyn, the oldest one, she lives in Lake Helen. She has 4 children, 3 boys and a girl.
Now, what's her last name now?
Well, right now it's Carolyn Lamar, Lamar. She works over at Dunn Insurance in Daytona. She was a waitress for over 20 years, and then went into, she was having problems with her shoulders, and so she got away from waitressing and went in for office work, and she was going to DBCC at the time when she started working over at Dunn Insurance. Then our second child, who is Larry, he's working up in Maryland at the nuclear power plant there. When he finished high school, he went 2 years junior college, DBCC, and then he worked for Rod Roberts in Lake Helen he had a tile business. And then 2 years with Rod, Larry decided he would go in service to get some kind of schooling. So he checked the services, and the Navy gave him the better deal. He wanted to go in for nuclear power. He went to boot camp there in Orlando. He was ornament of his company. Graduated. Instead of being E1, which is your lowest rank in service, he finished boot camp with E3. That was because he had 2 years junior college, and he did very well in that. So he went in, they took him into the nuclear power program, and after all his training, he was in a nuclear power submarine, the Bonaparte, I believe it was, and was in there 6 years. Made ratings in those 6 years. He was E6 when he got out. Didn't want to be in the Navy all those years, so he got out and he started sending resumes to different companies in the nuclear power field, and he got a job up there in Maryland. And he's been there ever since. He's married, does not have any children.
Okay.
So, then the third child, Mary Lynn. She's a registered nurse. She works at West Volusia Hospital in the operating room. She's been in the operating room for 19 years.
Oh, wow.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
And the youngest one, Alan, he graduated from Virginia Tech and worked up there for several years, mostly in restaurants. He liked food work. And then he came home, and he was with us 3 years, worked for Step Office Supply here in DeLand. He was would go to different businesses for orders, and then he decided he wanted to go back to Virginia. So he went back to Virginia, worked in a couple restaurants, and then he's now working at the university, Virginia Tech, and it's a state university, and they have a hotel that they run, and they have a dining room that they have conventions at and banquets and things. He got a job there. He's banquet manager at the university. So that's it.
All right.
got 4 good kids.
I think that covers everything. Thank you again.
My gosh, has that all been on there too? You didn't quit when he said quit a little while ago, did you? Well, it's been interesting. It really has.
Well, a lot of fun.
Yes. Yeah.